Well, all right, folks. I really don't ever want to talk to Adrian Tubbs again. As a matter of fact, I think I blocked him on Facebook this week. But I do want to talk to you because I love you folks. I love Adrian Tubbs, too. I just don't want to talk to him, man. Kim Davis, we love Kim Davis. She's our girl, the #1 lady in Houston when it comes to sports talk. Sorry, just is what it is. Deal with it. That's Angela Lawford from HMW. I'm Craig Shelton, HoustonMediaWatch.com. I encourage you folks, check out the website. Give me a follow on Twitter at Craig Shelton, HMW. And if you follow me there and tell me that, hey, Craig, you know, I'm tweeting you to let you know I was watching the show and you said to follow you. And if I follow you, you'll give me your alternate ego Twitter handle. Hey, I promise you, I'll get that done. You on your own then, buddy. Trust me. I want to know what the pros. I wanted to know what the pros had to say on Twitter in regard to, you know, with this NFL Super Bowl matchup coming up. I mean, tomorrow's going to be the big day. We'll know. Either San Francisco or Seattle goes to New York. Either Denver or the Patriots go to New York. All we know at this point is that, hey, we're going to have a traditional NFL quarterback in the Super Bowl versus one of these new upstart, more mobile, read option, outside the pocket, make things happen type guys with your feet when everything else breaks down. But both of those guys can hurt you with their arms when they need to as well. But what I wanted to know was what would be the best X and O football matchup for the Super Bowl? And I reached out to Russell Baxter, several NFL players, some media guys. So we got some feedback I'll share with you from a couple of guys. But before we go there, there was a second part to this question. We also wanted to know, once you determine the best X and O matchup, what would be the most aesthetically pleasing matchup, the most entertaining matchup to watch? I'll let Kim Davis give you her thoughts. I'll let Angelo give you his thoughts, and then we'll move on and tell you what the pros had to say on Twitter. Kim.
So it's kind of tough, but from an X and O's, I think, you know, Seattle, because they have the, you know, best secondary, and you're going up against a really great passer. So I think X's and O's, Seattle, and probably the Patriots, just because you just don't know what you're going to get, you know, and because that Belichick-Brady combo is just ever-changing, and I think they're probably one of the best at making adjustments. So I think that might be from an X and O standpoint.
That's the one I lean to as well, because
you copied off my paper.
The thing about it's kind of different because with Seattle, if I was to see the Patriots match up against the Seattle defense in that Tampa 2, I'm thinking of it more in terms of how Belichick is going to scheme.
Yeah.
This, you know what I mean? I know Brady's great, not taking anything, but if it's Denver in that matchup for me, it's like, Peyton, you know, and all the thing Peyton does is his offense, so to speak, and you know, everybody by now know all of the big deals about the fake audible calls, and I'm sure Omaha meant absolutely nothing. I guarantee you, Peyton won't tell you, but I'm telling you, it meant nothing. Come on, be for real. Think about it. But I think overall for me, earlier today I was kind of leaning toward Denver. But if you have an opportunity to see Bill Belichick be challenged,
yeah, that's what exactly.
It's, you know, so I kind of waffle here, but I'll take either one. Angelo, I'll ask you in regard to the second part of the question, which would be the more entertaining matchup for the Super Bowl?
Well, I actually think that my most entertaining matchup would be the one that I would choose based on the X's and O's standpoint. and I would choose.
So you're a riding guy like me. So you're boring to people.
No.
Because we too boring. People want to see touchdowns and kick returns. Here we are. We want to see everything schemed to the max.
You know, as a fan, I would love to see Seattle get to the Super Bowl. But just from what I would like to see, X's and O's wise, and what I think would be the most entertaining game to see how Belichick would scheme against Kaepernick and Vernon Davis and Michael Crabtree. I would just love to see that matchup and see how, because I think New England and San Francisco have the two best coaches. So I would like to see that matchup because I think it would be more about them than it would be about the team.
You know,
Don't leave out Anquan Bolden.
Yeah, exactly.
and of all the guys that responded on Sean Salisbury responded, Lance Erline, of all the guys that responded about this on Twitter, you know, you're the only person that brought up Harbaugh in terms of being a part of the scenario for your thought process and wanting to see that matchup. Pretty much, you know, Belichick, you're going to hear that. Boy, do we sleep on John Fox.
Or Pete Carroll.
Well, I think we're giving Seattle a lot of love, but think about this in terms of John Fox. Think about the amount of injuries that the Denver Broncos have dealt with this year. Von Miller's out now.
Right.
And even John Fox was out.
Not to mention that John Fox went Kubiak on us there for a minute.
Harris, right, last week.
Exactly. I mean, and that Denver team keeps rolling along.
Yeah.
And a staple of John Fox football has always been good, solid defenses. He did that, you know, in the Carolinas, no doubt about it. Russell Baxter, Bax Football Guru, that's from ProFootballGuru.com. Go check it out, the website. He says, I think New England versus Seattle for the X's and O's will be the best matchup, in Denver versus San Francisco for better entertainment value. Jerome Solomon, at Jerome Solomon on Twitter, from the Houston Chronicle and ESPN 97.5, The Rush. You've seen Jerome here on the show. Jerome says, high-scoring fun, San Francisco versus Denver. Team, X's and O's, New England versus either. X's and O's, Seattle D versus Manning, or Belichick versus Kaepernick. So there you have it. You know what the pros think on this particular subject. So I think probably the one thing we can all agree on, I don't think anybody has much of an expectation of this not being probably one of the better Super Bowls as far as matchups, because there's no matchup that could potentially happen that you look at and just go, there's some exponential difference in the talent.
The weather could change it.
Well, yeah, because if the weather gets crazy, you would think that wouldn't be beneficial to Seattle, and even though Denver is from a cold
if you have
city.
the kind of weather that they've been having, you know, on the East Coast, it could be. You don't want to see that game in a bunch of snow, and it could change on a dime.
So I woke up this morning and the Texans were in the mood. The Texans fired director of pro personnel Brian Gardner and pro scout Kevin Murphy. Tanya Ganguly from ESPN reported Gardner is listed as the highest-ranking player personnel executive, and Murphy is listed as the third-ranking player personnel executive. No other official news from the teams about any other expected moves, but obviously.
Hate to see that about Gardner.
One of the HMW writers, Lamar Manigan, informed me of a tweet, I think that came from Jason Lockenfora, making comments in regard to, you don't fork out the type of money for a guy like Bill O'Brien to get him out of Penn State, then bring him here and pay him a hefty sum as well, and not turn over the keys to the guy and let the guy make some moves. Kim, like I know, these are significant moves, signaling moves that, hey, it doesn't get much closer
let's
than
just
that.
call it like it is. That's because Rick Smith is still there.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any love lost between Rick and Gardner. And so I think that there has been. I think Rick is positioning himself. He's done a good job of that the past 2 years, and so I'm not surprised. That's a whole nother show.
Rick Smith, a.k.a. the Emperor Jones. Folks, we have about 10 seconds to run up out of this segment. When we come back, we're going to talk about Arian Foster versus the media right here on HMW Sports Talk Live.